Grand Rising, Grand Rising, Grand Rising. This is your brother Chief Kalinago. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Hope everybody's doing good. I'm about to get into another video. This video is part two of getting to know me. All right. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. What's going on here with this? I think this is good. I think I'm live. Let me just make sure. Stop this cam. Let me make sure I got audio on here. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure I got audio on. Yep. All right, cool. All right, so I got audio, right? So with that being said, this is part two. Now, I have to dive deeper into who I am. Well, yesterday in part one, I pretty much gave you guys a lot. Just to put it that way, I give you a synopsis of me growing up, my childhood, me migrating, to the U.S., a little bit of my journey. But today, in this video, I'm just going to share a little more information as to me coming into myself, into who I am, why the name Chief Kalinago Flying Eagle. Now, a lot of times people hear Chief Kalinago and they think I'm insinuating or I'm saying that I'm the chief of the Kalinago people in Dominica. No, that's not what it is. I am not the chief of the Kalinago people in Dominica. However, I am a chief of an American Indian nation in the United States. All right. I'm trying to see, where do I have this? Give me 1 second. Let me see if I could find something real quick. I know I have it somewhere, man. I know I have it somewhere, but where do I have it is the question. Where do I have this? Where do I have this? Where do I have this? Receipts, receipts, receipts. I was trying to see if I could find my whatchamacallit. If I could find our seal and flag, but I can't find that. So I'll probably have to show you that another time. So I'm not going to waste any time on this right now. Okay. So just to reiterate, like I said, okay, Chief Kalinago Flying Eagle, all of those names were given to me. All right. And no, I am not the chief of the Kalinago Nation or people in Dominica. No, I'm not. All right. So with that being said, let's get into that. So the name that my mother actually gave me is Kenrick. Okay. Kenrick, Kenrick. For those who went to grammar school with me, went to Goodwill school with me, in my village, everybody called me Ken, right? Ken. But on my journey, I realized that coming into myself, I had to identify myself as who I saw myself. Now, does it mean I'm not proud of the name my mom gave me? No, that's not what it means. But in my culture, I'm American Indian. In my culture, most of the times, the children were the ones who named themselves when they got old enough, based on things in nature, based on things in the cosmos. All right. So again, that's part of my nature, and that's what I was led to do. So let us go look at the meaning of the baby names Kenrick. Okay. Because like I said earlier in the video yesterday, that I always felt different. I always felt like, Dominica was a little too small for me. Not that I wasn't proud to be born in Dominica. It's just that I felt like I had growing to do, and I needed to leave Dominica to grow and come into myself. All right. And there was just something in me since at the age of 6. I just couldn't explain. Like I told y'all before, I had to go to church because that was what was expected, because my mother was a Christian, my father was a Christian, but that never resonated with me. And like I told y'all before, I'm not going to turn this channel into a religious discussion, because once you start talking about religion, then you start losing people, because people are so caught up in their faith. And that's not what this channel is about. I have another channel for that. But with that being said, when I realized, when I got of age and I was on my own, right? And I didn't feel like I was forced to participate in religion, then I found myself. So when I was able to free myself and not feel obligated to go to church and all these things, that's when I found my true self. All right. So like I said, I always felt within me, I was of royalty, I was a great man. It was just some energy I had in me, and I just really couldn't perceive it. So I started doing research, on the name. And this is one of the meaning of the name Kenrick. All right. What does it say here? It says, um, Kenrick is of Welsh. It is also of Scottish, but Welsh. It says, meaning greatest champion. All right, so Kenrick in itself means greatest champion. It says, inspire your little champ to be all that they can be with the name Kenrick, an alternative variation of the name Kendrick. This boy's name is a Welsh origin and means greatest champion. No matter what field your little one decides to go into, baby Kenrick will aim to do their absolute best. And it doesn't matter where I was at. It doesn't matter, like I told y'all, when I became a locksmith, right? Within less than 6 months, I was the one giving people jobs on the site, right? When I became a dancer, I became the number one dancer in New York. Literally, I became the number one dancer in New York. All right. I started doing my own events. I became so popular where I was called to become to get a spread in the magazine Playgirl. All right. And when they did a test photo shoot, and they was like, yeah, you're very photogenic. We would like you to be in the magazine. But at that time, I was so popular. Like I said, when I used to do my shows, I used to have like 1,000, 1,500 women in a building when I did my shows. And I told them, listen, I know my worth. I'm not just going to have a page in your magazine. If you're going to put me in your magazine, then I want the cover and the center. All right. They told me they'll get back to me in about a couple of days, 2 to 3 days. Literally within 4 hours, they called me back and told me I got the cover and centerfold. So with that being said, in 2017, I think it was in 2017, no, in 2007, I think, not 2017. In 2007, I became the center and the centerfold and cover for Playgirl. I'm saying all that to say, my past is what made me who I am, the great man that I am today. But I had to find myself, when I looked into the meaning of my name, because I knew that my mother did not, or my parents did not name me that name for no reason. Everyone name has a meaning of who you truly are. All right. Or your greatness. Your name always tell a story. And I had to find the story in my name to find my true self. All right. So this is one of the meanings of Kenrick. Let me show you another one. Another one. Okay, give me 1 second. Here's another one. It says that Kenrick is a Christian name. Okay. It says that Kenrick is a Christian name. I'm not a Christian though, but it says Kenrick is a Christian name. Like I said, my parents were Christian, so they gave me a Christian name. But the name Kenrick is a Scottish baby name. In Scottish, the meaning of the name Kenrick is royal chieftain. All right, and it was a surname, not a first name. It was a surname. Okay, so therefore it meant royal chieftain. So like I said, all right, there was just something always in me of greatness, of rulership, even growing up in Brooklyn, in the 90s, right? In the 90s, in the 1990s, Brooklyn was so bad. Where I grew up, I literally grew up in the 90s in Brooklyn, right? And not just in the 1990s, but in certain neighborhoods called the 90s, like we had East 91st, East 92nd, East 93rd, East 94th, East 95th, East 97th, East 98th, right? But East 94th was like one of the most, ruthless neighborhoods. I'm talking about gangs and gangs and gangs. And the thing is, I grew up among these gangs, right? But I never joined no gang. And here's the irony in all that, right? There were rival gangs, and I was cool with everybody on either sides, and they respected me, right? They respected the fact that I didn't want to be a part of no gang, but I wasn't a punk. You feel me? So everybody was looking out for me. Back then, of course, everybody used to call me Lex. You feel me? So that's what everybody used to call me, Lex. At some point, when I got into entertainment, my name was King Lex. All right, but everybody used, call me Lex for short. All right. So, but like I said, all that was part of the journey of finding myself. But I'm saying all that to say not to impress you, but to impress upon you that your journey, your experience is what makes you who you are today. All right. So, with that being said, I grew up in that type of environment, but the gangs, they respected me. They gave me my respect. It was because of an energy that I had. And on either side, they would tell people, listen, if you mess with Lex, you mess with me. I remember there was a situation how I was able to take over the job when we were doing the locksmithing, right? There was a dude from Dominican Republic, a Spanish dude. He was like a big dude, you know what I mean? And he was the one that was, giving out the jobs, whatever the case is, even before I got to, the job doing the locksmithing. And when I got there, I was a big dude. I was working out, I was very fit, very physical. So he felt a little bit threatened, right? And then after like about 3 months on the job, I realized like, dude trying to hate on me, right? So in about 5.5 months, I said, listen, bro, you know what? I'm the one that's taking over this job right now. I'm going to give people jobs. So he got his boys and bottom line, long story short, it got into an altercation where it almost got physical. So I left. I took a taxi, went back to the hood, right? And I told a couple of my boys, man, listen, about 10, 12 of them got in cars and came to the job and say, yo, which one of the dudes you talking about? When I pointed him out, man, listen, he got on his knees and apologized. From since then, after 6 months of that job, I was the boss on that job. And as a matter of fact, the very next day, me and that same dude, Frank, the Dominican Republican dude, me and him became best buddies. All right. So once again, saying all that to say is I always had that presence of greatness and leadership in me. So that's what Kenrick means, a royal chieftain. Now, how does that relate to me being indigenous and me becoming a chief, right? Even before I knew the meaning of the name Kenrick, I started doing research, all right, and realizing that what we were told about us as a people, the people who you call so-called Negroes, that we were taught that we came from Africa, I started having dreams and visions. My ancestors started coming in dreams and visions and talking to me. And they had they had feathers in their hair, and they were telling me that, my ancestors came from America, that I'm indigenous to America, but I just didn't have proof. I couldn't prove it, right? So, I was like, okay, cool. And I'm talking about now, some of you may find that spooky, but that's cool. That's cool. Like I said, I had to let go of religion, all right, and all the fear tactics that religion are teaching people to tap into myself and connect myself to my ancestors. Even in the Bible, it says, honor your mother and father, right? So I honored my ancestors, right? And they came to me in dreams and visions. So with that being said, um, I remember one time, they showed me exactly what happened in 1492. My people were already in the Americas, and the people who came in 1492, it wasn't the pale man, meaning that it wasn't the people you call the so-called white people. No, it were people who looked just like us. Now, I didn't have the proof to prove none of that. I was just going based on what they were showing me. So I've always been teaching. I've been teaching on YouTube for over 20 years. Well, at first it was Black Planet. Then I went to YouTube. All right. But the point I'm making is I've been doing this for a very long time. I have 28,000 subscribers on YouTube teaching people. I've been doing that for a long time. Okay. So they started showing me these things. And I was on YouTube telling our people, yo, listen, in the United States, we're not from Africa. We're American Indians. We're the American Aborigines. People thought I was crazy and all these different things, right? But I kept on pushing because they kept on giving me more information. And then I started going into the prehistoric books. And all of a sudden, it opened up a whole new world. And the truth started to reveal itself. So what I did was I started talking to different people, traveling the United States, and I put a nation together. All right. The first nation I put together was the United Anion-Wea the United Anion-Wea Nation. Then the second nation was UAN. It was another nation with where I was teaching people, but the main nation was United Anion-Wea Nation. Now, Anion-Wea is one of the original names for Cherokee, right? For Cherokee, even if that in itself is also a misnomer, but Anion-Wea was supposedly the original name for Cherokee, but it wasn't. The original name for Cherokee and Anion-Wea is Kituwa. All right. So I'm like, okay, well, if I was born in Dominica, I'm trying to make the connection. How is that? I know that I'm also Kalinago, which is Arawak, Carib, and Taino, and I'm gonna break that down for y'all, right? The reason why I put all three together to tell you they are one people, and I'll explain that, right? So, but my ancestors were showing me that a lot of my ancestors were brought into Dominica all the way from the Yucatan, from I'm talking about down south. I'm talking about Illinois. I'm talking about the Carolinas. All right. A lot of my people came and was brought into Dominica as well. All right. So all that stuff was given to me in dreams and visions, but I just didn't have the tangible proof to do that. Anyway, I created the nation. I had about 37 to 47 people in the nation, but in our culture, we had a matriarchal system, meaning that the inheritance was passed down through the women, through the mothers. So we had our council, we had our matriarch, and the matriarch was the head of the nation, and the matriarch was the one that was supposed to pick the chief. So there was a vote, and the matriarchs and the council of elders, all right, we had 12 elders, okay, and the 13th matriarch, the 13th elder, she was the head of the matriarch, okay, and they picked me to be the chief of the nation, and we have a real authentic nation. It is recorded with in Washington D.C. Our flag is copyright. They know that I'm the chief of the nation, even in with what you call Homeland Security and with immigration. My documents, it says I'm American Indian. They never contested that. They never disputed that. All right. They know me as, when I went to Social Security to get my Social Security number. All right. I had my Social Security number for a very long time, since 1992. But when I went to update my information, they asked me my race. I said American Indian. They never questioned that. But it's funny that people who look just like me, especially people, when I come to Dominica to teach, they look at me like I'm crazy. But if the United States know who I am and they did not dispute who I am, then who are you to tell me that's not who I am? You see what I'm saying? Because like I said, our people have been lied to. We've been brainwashed, okay, with this false doctrines that we've been given about our story. But our story, literally, we are listening to his story, right? But anyway, let me proceed. I think I showed you guys what I thought I did that, right? So we have the nation, okay, and we teach. We had our classes every Saturday or every other Saturday, talking about law, talking about indigenous culture, talking about the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Then we had the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. I got in touch with the director of OAS, Organization of American States. I introduced myself. I let him know who I was. I've had conversations with him. I've been traveling domestically in the United States with my indigenous ID. I have an indigenous ID. I have a world passport. I have an international driver's license with my indigenous name on it. And I've been traveling domestically in the US with my indigenous ID. I remember the first time when I tried to do it, they were giving me a problem. So I wrote Homeland Security and I told them that they're being discriminative against indigenous people. And guess what? They allowed me to travel with my ID. And as of 2017, they sent me a letter and say, well, Chief Kalinago, because of your call, whatever, we have changed our policies. So like I said, I've put in a lot of work, all right, fighting on behalf of indigenous people. Okay, so I have those, like I said, those documents as well. But so like I said, just growing into myself. And one day I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should do a DNA test. All right. But knowing that a lot of this, I did my research on these DNA companies, and I realized that the popular DNA companies like 23andMe, they work with the colonization society. And what they do is they put every individual that they call so-called black. I'm not black, so I'm saying so-called black, right? My skin is brown. All right. But anyway, they tend to put us in Africa. So I was like, you know what? When I did the DNA test, so said, so done, they're talking about sub-Saharan African, but I knew that wasn't me. All right. So about 3 weeks later, a friend of mine reached out to me because I was asking the universe, I just need direction, I need guidance, I need to find out who I truly am. I'm getting the visions, I'm getting the dreams. My ancestors are showing me and giving it to me in visions, but I don't have the tangible proof. I need to prove this. Okay, I need something concrete. All right. So one of my friends reached out and say, "Hey, Chief, there's a private company that do DNA tests, and they're very reputable." All right. So I paid about $300. I did a Native American DNA plus, and it came back conclusively telling me that I'm American Indian. So I'm gonna show y'all the DNA test. Okay. Give me 1 second. So that was done in 2017. But like I said, I already knew all that, I would say since about 2009. All right, that's when I started getting the visions. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen for y'all. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I could find that window, not a window. Let me see if I could find a tab. Where we at with it? I want to find that. Give me 1 second. Hold on for 1 second. Let me just kill some of that noise in the back. Um, okay, here we go. Just wanted to get rid of some of the noise in the background. All right, I know I have this here. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull this up for y'all. All right, cool. Here we are. Let me see if I can share this. All right, window. Okay, window right here. So this right here is the DNA test, the official DNA test that I did in 2017. Okay, I did that in 2017. As you can see, the date below is May 2017, right? I actually sent it in, I think in earlier 2017, but it came back because once you send your information and they have to process it, whatever the case is, it took about three to 4 weeks to get back to me. So I would say April. I did that in April. Okay, so this is the DNA that came from that private company. So it says, of course, the name that my mom gave me is up there, and Kalinago. I'll tell you how I came up with the Kalinago Flying Eagle Akhenaten, right? It says, order the DNA test from our laboratory showing following American Indian. All right, so all my matches were American Indian, and it also gave me a map of all the people that came and mixed in with my ancestors, right? And within the map, they're showing all the green dots, and it was mostly dark-skinned Europeans that came and mixed in with my people in the Americas. Literally, it was 1 or 2, 3 green dots that was on the borderline, on the outskirts of Africa. So my people did not come from Africa at all. It shows that on a route, on traveling into the Americas, 1 or 2 people, okay, came in and mixed in with my people, but literally the majority of them, of the people that came and mixed in with my indigenous ancestors, they came from Europe. So everything that my ancestors were showing me in visions, my DNA was telling the story. So it came back and said that I'm American Indian, but not just American Indian, I'm Cherokee, all right, which is Anianwea. Now it begs the question, how come I was born in Dominica and I'm also Cherokee, which Cherokee is the main tribe in the US, all right, going down from the Appalachian Mountains all the way down to, you have parts of Mississippi, North Carolina, Virginia, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said, my ancestors already showed me the journey of my ancestors that were taken into Dominica during slavery. But most people think when you hear slavery, all they think about is African. They were not taught that people were being taken from different parts of the Americas into different other parts of the Americas, and those people, they've lied to us and told us they came from Africa. And my DNA is telling the truth. And this, like I said, is an official, legitimate document, and it shows that I'm American Indian. All right. Now, that wasn't all. Then I started having visions about Egypt, right? And then in my visions, my ancestors were showing me that that I am a descendant of the Egyptians. And they were showing me Egypt in the Americas. And they told me that the original Egypt was in the Americas. And lo and behold, I went into prehistoric books and I found that truth, which I'm also going to show y'all, not today, but I'm just telling you about my story, but I'm going to prove all these things that I'm saying. So I did what's called a rare genes test. I didn't even know about the rare genes test, but once again, my ancestors led me to that. And in the rare genes test, it showed that on both my parents' side, on my mother's side and my father's side, I am a direct descendant of the Akhenaten, which was a pharaoh from the Yucatan, right? And I called the company. I was like, how could that be? They told me they took from, he was mummified. So they got his DNA from the tomb. And it shows that I'm a direct descendant of Akhenaten, the pharaohs. All right. And that's how that's why I added Akhenaten to my name. But I just didn't just add Akhenaten to my name. Okay. I went to my ancestors, I spoke to them, and this is how I came up with, the name. I was already called Chief, right? Because of our nation. But the Kalinago came in when I meditated one time and I asked my ancestors, hey, you know what? I want to represent who I am. I want to represent, I want my name to embody all of my ancestors, right? So that's when one of them came to me in a vision, and they gave me permission to use the name Kalinago. So I was just Chief Kalinago. All right. There was no flying eagle Akhenaten to that. There was no flying eagle. All right. And then one night I went to bed, and I was in my room, and I had a 1-bedroom apartment, but I had a kitchen. I had a bed, 1 bedroom, I had a living room, then I had a kitchen, right? Now, in the vision, whether it was a dream or a vision, I heard an eagle, the sound of an eagle in my kitchen, like screaming, but it wasn't a full-grown eagle. It was a baby eagle, right? So I got up in the vision and I went into the kitchen. Now, on the refrigerator, there was a cage, okay? And there was a baby eagle in the cage on my refrigerator. And the baby eagle was, it was screaming like it was, literally paranoid, right? But the baby eagle had no feathers. It had no feathers. So I got scared. And then in the same vision, one of my ancestors tapped me on my shoulders. So I turned around, and then I saw him, he had the feathers, he had the paintings on his face, but he was like, he almost looked like me. Okay. Dark skin like me. You know what I'm saying? He had an afro, and he had his feathers. And then he told me, hey, he said, Chief, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. The eagle wants you to feed it. I was like, well, I called him Elder. I said, well, Elder, I have no food to feed the eagle, So he pointed to the floor. When I looked on the floor, I saw some like breadcrumbs, right? But it was a whole lot of them. So I took my hands and with both hands, and I took a scoop of the breadcrumbs, and I started feeding it to the eagle. But as I'm feeding the eagle, the breadcrumbs, even if my hands are closed, the breadcrumbs could keep seeping through my fingers, even if my fingers were closed, right? And I started getting scared because the eagle started screaming more. It started screaming and screaming and screaming. So the elder came back, the same elder came back and tapped me on my shoulder. He said, listen, Chief, don't be afraid. The eagle just wants you to feed it. But I said, Elder, listen, I was feeding the eagle, but look, see what happened. Anyway, he pointed to the floor again. Then I saw a bunch of it looked like worms, right? But a whole lot of big worms. Then I picked it up and started feeding the eagle. And the eagle started eating and eating and eating, right? And the more I fed the eagle, the more the eagle its feathers started to grow, and the more it got wings, okay? And the eagle got so huge, and it gave this sound, and the cage just busted open, and the eagle flew away. And my ancestor came back and said, that's your name. He said, your name is Eagle. All right. But then so I in the same dream now, all of a sudden, so it was supposed to be Chief Kalinago Eagle, right? But then in the same vision, I started tossing and turning, but that name just wasn't complete. And then when the eagle flew away in the vision, I heard a voice saying flying eagle. And then I was like, well, I asked the question, is my name Chief Kalinago Flying Eagle? And my ancestor said yes. And in another vision, I asked them permission to use Akhenaten, which is from my great-grandfather, whatever the case, great, all the way back to Egypt, if I could use the name Akhenaten, and they said yes. So I added that to my name. So the name is Chief Kalinago Flying Eagle Akhenaten. And just recently, I would say about 2 months ago, I had another vision, which I added another name to my name, which is Amatakan. But I'll spell all that. The point I'm saying all that to say is, I had to get in tune with who I was. You know what I mean? And my ancestors showed me who I was. So I came back to Dominica to teach my people. Now, my story may not be the same as your story. I could only tell you my story and who I am. You feel me? That my ancestors were always in Dominica. Now, it's unfortunate that I might have to come to Dominica and fight my people because they might want to tell me I'm not Kalinago. You feel me? But I ain't worried about that because I know who I am. You feel me? So, how, let me explain something to you about Kalinago, which is Carib, Arawak, and Taino. What people don't realize is that, or what we're not being taught, these people are the same people. The Kalinago, the Arawak, and the Taino, they're not different people. They are the same people, the same phenotype, the same complexion. They are a dark-skinned people that almost look, you could call them Negroes. But I'm not a Negro. I'm just saying it's a Negro phenotype. That's what they call this, right? But I'm indigenous. I'm an American Indian, American Aboriginal. All right. Yes, even the American Indian is a misnomer, but I'm an American Aboriginal, just like how you have Australian Aboriginal. All right. What people are not being taught, once again, like I said, the truth is the people that you call Negroes in Dominica, over 90% of them are the actual Caribs. And the same thing that they did in the Americas, they lied to us and showed us the people that these natives, they're not the natives. I'm going to prove all this, but I'm not going to do it in this video. This video is just to continue to tell you my story and how I became into, or how I came about into being my true authentic self. All right. So that is my part of my story. That's my journey. So yes, I'm still the chief of the United Anionwiya Nation. I am still that chief. All right. So that's how I came up to having the name Chief Kalinago. It's not because I'm the chief of the Kalinago Nation. No, it is because my ancestors give me permission to embody my people in my name. Okay. But I'll go into different lessons. Okay. This is not a lesson. This is just getting to know me. So I think I did lesson 1, 2, and 3. So in lesson 4, if I'm not mistaken, if I haven't done lesson 4, then I will go into proving to you who the original people are in the Americas based on complexions. I'll go into prehistoric books and expose and show you that truth because that's what I'm about. Okay. So I did that. All right. And like I said, man, don't matter where I go in the United States, people. I remember one time I was traveling. I was going to Indiana, right? I was gonna meet up with one of my indigenous brothers, and I stopped at Chipotle, all right. And there was a pale woman, what you may call white. These people are not white, so I don't call them white. I call them pale or peach, all right. But she was a pale woman, so she told me she was some type of American Indian tribe, but I know they're not the original people. You know what I mean? So I started to challenge her on that. Yo, let me tell y'all something. When I broke this down to this lady and I showed her all the proof and all the documents, this lady literally cried. I'm talking about a grown woman. This woman cried in Chipotle and she apologized because she knew that I was the original and not her. She cried. Okay. I also called the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma and I questioned them. I have that video as well. All right. I will give you guys a link to that video. All right. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me see if I could find it for y'all. Okay. Because like I tell people, man, everything that I talk about, I could prove it. Let me find the link for y'all real quick. Give me 1 second. I'm going to find it for you. No, I have to go to the other one. Give me 1 second. I have both of these open. Let me see if I could find that for y'all. Give me 1 second. That. Where is my video at? Go to my channel. Give me 1 second. 1 second. Go home. Okay. All right. Here we are. I'm gonna get this video, and I'm going to share it with you. Give me 1 second. And if you listen to the conversation properly, you will realize what I'm talking about. So like I said, we were lied to. We were bamboozled. Okay. This video have over 6,000 views, almost 7,000 views. Let me give me 1 second. Let me get the link. I'm gonna get the link and put it in the description for y'all. Give me 1 second. Share that. Copy the link, because these people know who we are. They know that the so-called black people, the Negroes, we are the original people of the Americas, all of the Americas. And I'm also going to show you in a different lesson that it was South America that gave Africa civilization. They lied to us. All right. I'm going to put that right here in the description for y'all. Right here. Boom. Okay. So I had a conversation with them, and the dude got so irritated he ended up speaking the truth. But you have to listen to the conversation. And I've just been doing so much work in the US, setting the establishment, going into different places, teaching our people who we are. So I've put in years and years and years, over 10, almost 12 years of indigenous work. You know, I mean, teaching our people who we are. I did classes. I mean, I'm just talking about, I would travel all over the US teaching our people who we are. All right. Going into different political arenas and talking to councilmen and, you know, on behalf of indigenous people, going into the UN, talking to these people about indigenous people. I would say in about 2016 or 2015, I went to the UN to a summit to represent indigenous people. So I've done a lot of work, a lot of work. All right. So this is part 2 of my journey, just to let you realize who I am. Okay. And knowing my true authentic self. And I appreciate you once more for tuning in and listening to my journey. And I will continue to teach. All right. So with that being said, you guys have an amazing continuation. Like and subscribe. Please share these videos. Let the channel grow, because I want that all this information to get out to the people, not just here in Dominica, but all over the Caribbean and also in different parts of the Americas. All right. Because America is our motherland. The majority of us that we call so-called black people, America is our motherland and not Africa. But like I said, this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, because they taught you to be so attached to this slave story. But I'm going to prove to you that this slave story was exaggerated and it was a big hoax. I'm going to prove it to you. All right. I love y'all. Talk to y'all soon.